let's talk a little bit, dig a little deeper around the concept of programmatic creative today. So I was talking with Rick Haslam on a panel from RAP, creative director, who was lamenting the fact that the creative team is not brought in early enough at the strategic brief level to understand what the digital and other messaging is going to be, which seems so topsy-turvy compared to 15 years ago,
right,
when we in digital were always, last at the kids' table for Thanksgiving,
sure,
and oh gosh, it's always a line item down here.
I mean, I think it's actually important to bring everybody in at the early stages. I don't think there should be a kids' table and a regular table. Everybody should be treated with equal respect, and I think everybody can make a great contribution. So I think for good CMOs, they're expert at taking these divergent streams and bringing them all together to reach the end. And I mean, frankly, whoever thought that media could be perceived to be a creative art? But it is. I mean, media was never really seen that way. It was always seen as sort of an implementation. But one can be as creative in media as in creative or in marketing. I mean, all of these things have great potential to help push the brand ahead. And it's the CMO's job to put all that stuff together.
So, two other quick questions, then I want to get to your furniture business. So, with Pitchapalooza, we're recording this here in early November. I think there's still $30 to $35 billion U.S. equivalent up for grabs right now with major brands. Again, as someone who has led both sides of that transaction, do you see an overall change in the relationship and transaction and fee structure between major agencies and major brands as a result of this?
I do. I mean, I think that agency work and agency value have obviously been degraded, and I think that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
When I started an agency in the late '70s in New York City, and we operated under the 15% rule, and the notion then was if you did a good job, the budget would increase because you'd want to spend more money behind the business. And when stuff started getting decoupled in the 80s, especially media, clients thought that saving money was going to be the answer, and I don't see that.
And kind of like how programmatic started off, and everybody thought efficiency meant cheap CPM and ROI, and oh my God, fewer humans, and this is a great cost savings, and let's set up this other entity called the trading desk, and maybe it's about effectiveness and other benefits of programmatic, not just dollar related. Blowing that up, the overall value of an agency, again, much more than just saving.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think that one of the things that's kind of interesting in programmatic and in digital in general is there really is a lack of financial transparency. So there might be less people working on programmatic, but I guess the real question is how much of the working media dollars actually get into media? And I think that when one starts peeling the onion, that number is less than one imagines.
You see that collapsing though at some point, right? Through again M&A, just again people will start probably lowering fees to capture more share of supply or of budget, right? And that 60-cent tax will get down to a more reasonable.
Yeah, well also beyond that, folks have choices in the marketplace, and avenues where there's more money that goes into working media should work better than those where less money. I mean, the same thing can be said about fraud.
Yeah.
I mean, if a third of the spend goes into impressions that are never seen by a human, that third is never going to do anybody any good, and so the brand's not going to get built, and sales are going to be reduced. On the flip side, if more of the working media dollars go in and it's more effective, the brand will get built better. There'll be more sales, and those entities and/or publishers, for example, will get more repeat business. So it seems kind of like a virtuous cycle.
So as someone who built out Forensic as CMO and much more for that organization relatively recently, tell us about kind of those early solutions that were made and kind of where you see. I mean, does this become does the curve on fraud start to go down closer to zero and get into percentage points because there are more tech solutions, there's more human intervention and a flight to quality, hopefully on the demand side, those things combined?
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I mean, the fraudsters are really smart, and as much as being done to combat fraud, there's an equal amount, or perhaps even more, being done to enhance it. So as the market gets larger and larger, and I guess the digital spend in the U.S. next year is projected to be about $60 billion, it becomes a very interesting target. So the perfect example of this is a guy goes by a bar and he sees a sign in the front window that says Budweiser, and he goes in and orders a Budweiser. Now, does he order the Budweiser because he saw the sign in the window? Or could it be because of the, the hundreds of millions of dollars of spend that Budweiser has had over the years that's had an influence on this person?
And we use the same reference actually to talk about how crazy last click, last view attribution is. And I'm not the first. Forgive me for not remembering the original source, but someone came up with a great analogy of it as if someone a crew going out clubbing that night is about to enter one club, and there's a guy with the flyers for that club standing outside the door, and seeing them go to walk in and go, oh, here, take this.
Yeah.
And, that's the 88 by 31 that ad networks for 15 years would just carpet bomb people with and go, oh no, that was me, because I was last impression. Really?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and then also, one of the issues with that attribution model is that the big guys always had a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Because typically, people would go to Google. And whether one could attribute it to Google or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, we've said the tweetable line that Google stock should be at least $100 less if people got off of the last click attribution, because you see a fantastic television ad, a beautiful magazine ad, a billboard ad, an iPad homepage sexy takeover,
Sure.
And then you get down the funnel and you go, oh, keyword search, and suddenly they get all that credit. I don't know if that's fully fair. Certainly partial.
Yeah. It's not fully fair.
Yeah.
It shows intent, but intent based on what that got people to that position to intend to do something.
That's right.
So anyway, that's the way I look at it.
So we'll talk about stuff like that.
It's going to be all downhill after this, man.
Well, and that's why these never go forward.